So you want to be a game master. The monster manual has many, many entries for things that you can use to staff your dungeons or your terrain, or whatever, for your players to come up against, to combat and to outwit and to outsmart and perhaps even run away from and hide. Because sometimes the best part is to just keep low and let whatever that thing was go on its way, so you don't risk getting murderized by something way out of your league. Because that's a fair tactic for a GM to throw in there. The whole idea there is to give the party every opportunity to kick rocks, to move on up the road and leave whatever that is alone. Okay, that said, in D&D, you have these things called monster manuals. I'm quite confident that you already know this. So, as the game master, study these. If you're going to have goblins, I'll pick on kobolds because I like kobolds. If you're going to have some kobolds in your campaign, bone up on kobolds. Learn their strengths. Learn their weaknesses. But more importantly, play up to their strengths. Generally speaking, in the simplest form, kobolds come in two kind of ways. They can come at you as a wave, i.e. cannon fodder, as they're being driven towards you by something meaner than them behind them. That's traditionally how, say, like the drow likes to use humanoids. But, so you get a whole pile of kobolds, they're dime a dozen. Baker's dozen for 9 cents on special. That's basically what they're supposed to be for, is to just overwhelm the opposition, or to set off traps, get the other side to burn up ranged ammo and ranged spells and other stuff. But if you study the kobolds themselves, specifically if they're in their own turf, in their own region or area, they're quite savvy and tricky. They love setting traps. They understand that they're very small when compared to just about everything out there. And short of having a massive amount of numbers, which then it's an attrition game, and even kobolds are not exactly thrilled to just lay down and die. They have to be prompted to do so unless they're infuriated or defending their turf. Which is what I say. If you look at this, if you look at kobolds from the perspective of, what if we're passing through their turf? How would they defend their turf? They love traps. They love sneak attacks. They love striking from the shadows. And whenever possible, they want you to follow them so they can use whatever clever thing they figured out to put you down. The monster manuals have lots of good tips in there, and there are other books out there that do too, and there's plenty of people on the internet that will give you sage advice about a given specific monster, humanoid, or whatever you like. But at the end of the day, that's kind of the point. As a game master, it's your job to be familiar, at least, with whatever it is you're fielding. So if you're choosing to put kobolds in, you should really know what their strengths and weaknesses are. So if I go back to my original example, and I have a wave of kobolds coming at my player characters, you come around a corner and the whole hallway is full of screaming kobolds with spears coming rushing at you. The back ones occasionally keep looking back over their shoulder because something bigger and nastier is coming right behind them. Generally speaking, that's how that scenario would be played out. If you play out the kobolds on their turf, defending their turf, their home, whatever, they're not going to be so willing to die in mass. They're not going to be so willing to just sacrifice themselves for nothing. They're not totally unintelligent. They're not very smart, but they're not stupid either. Survival doesn't, you don't have to be intelligent to have a sense of survival. Just think about that when you start using I'm going to use some goblins. Look at the goblins. Look at their strengths. Also take into account that just because the book says that they come with a spear does not mean that that's what they have to be using for weapons or armor. You can up armor them, you can up weapon them, you can adjust their ECL and make them a much tougher foe if your player character's party has evolved. Nothing shocks the bejesus out of some of these veteran players when they're sitting in something in their 10th level and I throw a couple, I don't know, goblin freaking champions at them and they're laughing like, what's this about? And then suddenly one of the goblins is proceeding to whoop the bejesus out of somebody in the group. Just saying. Study the monsters, use them wisely. Learn their advantages and their disadvantages.